Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So last night there were three major debates that took place in politics for the 2022 midterms. We saw in New York, Kathy Hochul debate Lee Zeldin. We saw Gretchen Whitmer and Tudor Dixon face off yet again in the state of Michigan. But there was no debate that got more coverage than the Senate debate that took place in Pennsylvania, possibly unsurprisingly to a lot of people, because a lot of people were anticipating this to be a major debate that potentially could put Oz over the top for good and cement his victory. And boy, that is exactly what took place. You can look at the snap polls. Dr. Oz winning the local Pennsylvania snap poll 82-18. This is an online poll. Obviously, there are plenty of online polls that show a similar margin of victory. Online polls can be rated. We know that. But either way, anybody who was on the fence that watched this debate, it clearly decided that Oz was the victor. And it's pretty obvious. You could look at the debate and you would see that because Dr. Oz annihilated him. Fetterman could not complete a sentence to save his life. It was a word salad, an incoherent word salad that it's honestly like you take a bunch of words and you put them in a translator, and then you translate those words to another language and then to like 5 or 6 more languages, and then you translate it back to English. I'm sure that some of you guys have done that before. That's exactly what Fetterman's speech pattern was in the debate. It was the most incoherent thing ever. And Fetterman also lied consistently about Dr. Oz's record. He lied about his past stances. He flip-flopped on fracking. He blurted out things very randomly and just very abrupt and obnoxiously. It was like, what is this guy doing? It made him look awful. It really did. Honestly, some people may have felt bad for him, but it's not like he performed in a way that would get him sympathy either. And Oz was somebody who went out there. He was an effective communicator who seemed very sane in comparison to Fetterman. Even those who may not like him personally but were open to voting for him are definitely now all on his side. They're in his column. And Democrats are in total panic mode. If you guys have looked at the news, if you guys have looked at your timelines on whatever social media you may use, that's exactly the state that they're in. And just to show some highlights for people who may not have seen the debate about how truly awful Fetterman's performance was, here you go. Take a listen.
Hi. Good night, everybody. No, here's what I think we have to fight about inflation here right now. That's what we need to fight about, inflation. And I believe that, again, my doctors, the real doctors that I believe in, they all believe that I'm ready to be served. That's it. He got his Pennsylvania house from his own inlays from a dollar.
Mr.
Oh, I do support fracking, and I support fracking, and I stand and I do support fracking.
Okay.
Now, we all have to make sure that everyone that works is able to, that's the most American bargain, that if you work full-time, you should be able to live in dignity is well true. That's what I believe. I don't ever recall in the Statue of Liberty did they say, take our tired, huddled masses and put them on a bus. There, everybody in Braddock, an overwhelmingly majority community of black community, all understood what happened. They understood what happened, and everybody agreed that. And whether it was a $50 tax break, about his farm in Montgomery County. So it's about supporting and helping, young earners. Young students.
Yes, this is the guy the Democrats nominated for Senate in the state of Pennsylvania. It's absolutely laughable. And Dr. Oz went out there and he did a fairly good job in comparison. And the Democrats are coping. They're in total cope mode. The Philadelphia Inquirer staff, which again, it's one of the furthest left-leaning newspapers in the state of Pennsylvania, they said Fetterman won the debate with Oz. And even so, they gave Fetterman a rating that's 4.3 out of 10. That is a failure grade. And this is his, newspaper. And when they're giving Oz a grade, they're basically viewing him and his past from like the resist lib position. They were never going to give him a good grade, but even so, they gave Fetterman a 4.3 and then got absolutely shredded. It's insane gaslighting, and it's just laughable, and the people aren't buying it at this point. They're really not. And like I said, there's no amount of gaslighting that is going to change the fact that Fetterman got absolutely annihilated last night. Yeah, the expectations were low. I didn't really anticipate him to do well, but still there was a chance that maybe he would have gone out there and, did what Herschel Walker did and outperformed expectations, and it could have been a net positive for his campaign, even though he would have lost anyways. But no, he fell 1,000 miles short of the already low expectations. It's abysmal. And people are going to be like, he has a stroke. I don't want to hear about that, okay? He has a stroke. Fine, but his debate skills and his public speaking was just as bad before. But if he's really in that bad of a condition, there is no way that this guy should become a United States Senator. There's just no way. It's awful. It's insane that people are even making excuses for this. And the other thing they'll throw out there about this debate, saying it wasn't a major win for Oz, was on the abortion issue, because Dr. Oz went out there and he said, I'm going to leave it up to the states, women doctors, local politicians, not the federal level, whatever. And that was something that the Democrats jumped to as their only minor victory, saying, oh, well, it's still a net win for us because Oz tripped over himself. But he didn't. That's the same stance that he's had all along. He says, leave it up to the states. Personally, I think that he should be a little bit more forceful. There's no reason why he can't, lower the week limit ban, but he kind of danced around that question. I still think he'd vote for a 15-week ban, maybe a 12-week ban if he is in the United States Senate, but that's beside the point. Do they really think that Oz saying we're going to leave it up to the states is a bigger negative takeaway from the debate than Fetterman not being able to complete a coherent sentence to save his life? Are you kidding me? Seriously, the gaslighting is out of control. And by the way, the only negative impact that statement could have is it could negatively impact Mastriano. Fetterman's campaign already put out an ad about that statement this morning. It was rushed. It looked like it was, made to deceive voters. They just cropped 3 seconds out of the debate, and they sped it up really fast. Very disingenuous stuff, but this is not going to help Fetterman in any way. I mean, the people that are going to vote on this issue that would care so much about this are probably going to be voting for Fetterman anyways. Worst case scenario is more voters would split their ticket for Oz and Shapiro. Thankfully, Donald Trump is coming back to Pennsylvania to do a rally for Doug Mastriano and Dr. Oz. Hopefully that could boost Mastriano and potentially help him pull off the upset of the century next month in November. But either way, this was just one debate, and it was an utter train wreck, What are they going to do? They're going to cry. They say ableism. That's their new term for Fetterman. And it's like, if this is really the stroke, which it's not just the stroke, keyword is just, he should not be running. He should not be running. A lot of Democrats are even agreeing. Strategists are saying he should have stepped down. They should have replaced him with Tom Wolf or Connor Lamb, whatever. Doesn't matter. What we do know is that this election is pretty much all but over. We're probably going to see some polls before the election that have Dr. Oz in the lead, and Dr. Oz could be running up the margins as we speak. But either way, this was not the only debate to take place last night. You also have to understand that Kathy Hochul debated Lee Zeldin, another train wreck for the Democrats in the state of New York. Kathy Hochul, she's been attacked for being weak on crime. A lot of people, even a lot of independents and Democrats, agree that crime is a top issue, and they don't like Kathy Hochul and how she's performed on that issue. But either way, she goes up there and she says, I don't know why locking up criminals is so important to you. Really? That's a major gift. That's just what we saw last year with Terry McAuliffe. Terry McAuliffe said parents should not have any say in what their kids are learning in schools. It was the nail in his coffin. Could Kathy Hochul go down in the state of New York? She did an awful job debating. Zeldin was great. He touched base on the population loss problem, trying to reverse that in the state of New York. He's talking about kitchen table issues, lowering crime, getting safer streets, better education. Meanwhile, Kathy Hochul is out there talking about ma orange man, ma 1-6 democracy, and I don't know why you think locking up criminals is so important. We have to be compassionate by letting all these criminals back out into our streets so they can commit all sorts of crimes and make the streets less safe. It's awful. And there's a chance that Hochul goes down because that debate was so awful. I think Zeldin's chances are higher than ever. The only question is it still going to be enough? Because New York is still New York. And Zeldin's a great candidate. He doesn't stab the base in the back, and he focuses on the issues that voters care about. Meanwhile, Hochul's running an awful campaign. She's super unlikable. Her voice is shrill, doesn't really resonate with voters, no pun intended. But that's basically the way that it is, and we could very well see a red governorship up in New York after this election, but it's going to be close either way. I really think so. It's going to be closer than past elections, but will it be enough? We'll have to wait and see. But also, we can't ignore one of my home states of Michigan, because Gretchen Whitmer went out there last night and she was lying to the audience about her lockdown policy, saying Michigan kids were only out of school for 3 months. Was she referring to a summer vacation that took place? Because kids were out of school in the state of Michigan for quite some time. They were out of school for, in many cases, over a year. It was abysmal. Her approval rating started to dip vastly when lockdowns became more and more unpopular. And it's definitely an issue that riles up voters in the states. You know, you talk about Whitmer's track record of failure, whether it's on infrastructure, raising the gas taxes during a pandemic to quote-unquote fix the damn roads, and the roads are not fixed. They're even worse than they've been before. And Tudor Dixon is somebody that's been on message. She's talking about things that matter, talking about inflation. Did a decent job overall in the debate. I did not watch the whole thing, although I saw a lot of the major highlights. I saw the Zeldin-Hochul debate and the Oz-Fetterman debate in full. But either way, a great debate night for Republicans, and also a great debate cycle for Republicans. I mean, there are not really that many debates that I've seen that Democrats won handily. I mean, Republicans have been doing very well this cycle. It's not like that every cycle. You know, 2020 in many cases, some of these down ballot races, you saw Democrats win debates. Even some Democrats who didn't even win the general elections, they still won some of their debates. I'd say they had the advantage there, but Republicans seem to be, taking W's in nearly every debate. Even Ron Johnson in Wisconsin, people are pointing to that as like the low point because he got booed, but he got booed by Barnes supporters. What he was saying, I don't think would get booed by the people of the state of Wisconsin. But either way, I would have to say that debate was a little bit less of a decisive victory for him, obviously. And then the Walker-Warnock debate, people will point to that and say that debate was relatively even split between who won it or who lost it. But either way, just outperforming expectations, even if he lost the debate from an objective perspective, means that the debate was a net win for him in his campaign. And even the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, which is Warnock's favorite newspaper, they even had to admit that reluctantly. But the Philadelphia Inquirer couldn't even do the same. I mean, this is abysmal. And they will gaslight, but people look at this guy, they see the ogre, he's crazy, he's incoherent. Whether he's recovering from a medical issue or not is completely irrelevant. What we do know is the voters are going to back Dr. Oz this fall, and they're going to send MAGA Mehmet to the United States Senate for 6 years at least. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle out.